Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 rudest Come Dine With Me contestants.
I will eat a few. Oh, excuse me.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
For this list, we'll be looking at some very memorable characters with some very bad manners. Who would you invite round for dinner? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Claire and Fluffy the Snake. The British public love their pets, but you can't always assume that other people want to spend time with your fluffy companions. In this episode from 2013, Claire decides that she's going to let her pet snake, Fluffy, loose on the dinner table.
Claire's inviting a special guest.
Her guests don't appear so keen on the idea, and it doesn't seem like best practice when it comes to hygiene.
This is my friend Fluffy.
Have you borrowed him for tonight?
No, he's my pet.
Especially not when Fluffy proceeds to empty his bowels all over the clean tablecloth. It's not really Claire's fault. She protests that he never normally needs to go more than once a month.
He did it last week, he only generally does it about once a month.
But Fluffy could have behaved better for their dinner guests. Number 9. Claire and Richard. It's not very polite to call the chosen location for someone else's dinner party cold and minging, but that didn't stop Series 29 contestant Claire. On Richard's week to host, dinner was held in his caravan. After some tactless insults from Claire, the caravan enthusiast eventually flipped his lid. Banging his hands on the fold-out table, he jumped to his feet and shouted that he'd had enough. The atmosphere in the cramped space could have been cut with a knife before another guest escorted Richard out to cool off. Admittedly, Claire had been obnoxious all week, but leaving your guests to clean up isn't exactly the best etiquette. Number 8. Salvo. Salvo, the Italian singer, was the only man in the gang from Beckton, East London, and he didn't exactly charm the ladies.
Now come on, you can't say
joking.
that you don't joke with Mum, especially with Cecilia.
He started off on the wrong foot by comparing one guest to an escort on the first night. By the end of the week, they were all pretty weary of him and ready to pick holes in his menu. When one of the girls threw shade on Salvo's easy main course, he lost his rag.
You've really been bitch with me today.
Accusing her of being bitchy with him, he threw a strop and chucked her dinner in the bin. He was apologetic afterwards, which may have saved him from the dreaded last place.
You've made me not want to eat this now because you're being rude
Doesn't
to
matter.
me.
If you don't want to eat it, chuck it in the bin.
I'm going to leave it there. You can chuck it in the bin.
I'll
You're
I'll chuck
the
it
gentleman
in the bin
that's
for you.
serving the
That's
food.
But he was unable to justify his bad behaviour. Number 7. James.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just have some food before it goes cold.
How rude are you? She was already talking.
Salvo may not have been the perfect host, but at least he conducted himself better than James. This recent contestant was also the lone man at the table, and he let it go to his head. Announcing that he wanted to represent men, he didn't do the best job.
Fizz away.
You're having a draft in you, you're putting fizz in a wine glass.
After labelling his host a chav for serving Prosecco in a wine glass, he continued to nitpick throughout the night. He did a prickle test on the women's legs and talked over the other guests at the dinner table.
I'm doing a hair test check.
Oh my
unfortunately, on the
gosh.
legs. She hasn't shaved.
His patronising tone did not go unnoticed or uncommented on, but the criticism seemed to slide off him like water off a duck's back. Number 6. Lee.
I'm not being rude, but I've got to peel spuds, do the creme brulees, do the starters, do the mains.
You've still got to do the creme brulees.
I've got loads to do. Listen, no pressure.
The not-so-proud recipient of Come Dine With Me's lowest ever score, Lee definitely brought it on himself. Did he realise what TV show he was on? If so, why did he do no prep and leave the guests to their own devices for hours while he spent all night in the kitchen?
Personally, I think you're all
He snapped at the other contestants when they complained and ended the night by throwing his own creme brulee out of the window. His food, when it finally arrived, was basically inedible, but the guests did get some asparagus to take home with them.
So tonight, Lee, I'm going to give you a 3, and I think I might have even been generous with that.
Number 5. Heather.
You used your knife, young lady. You don't get your knife and go,
Oh, I didn't do that.
yes, you did.
There are some dinner guests who purposely try to cause a bit of drama. Heather was not one of those people. Apparently unaware of her own misnomers across the week, she was absolutely gobsmacked to discover that she'd been ranked in last place. Holding court in front of her 3 fellow competitors, all attempts at civility went out the window.
Someone's got to come forth, haven't they?
No, because my food was better than any of yours. Seriously.
Heather slammed their food and their hosting skills and pronounced her own night much better than any of the others. The response was a mix of stunned silence and exasperation, and Heather eventually exited with much wailing and gnashing of teeth.
I could have given you a 0 because yours was right?
It was very entertaining though. Number 4. Jane.
I generally do like to chip in and try and offend and shock as much as I can.
We've all heard the accusations hurled at Jane. Did she really ruin Peter's night completely? And does she have a sad little life? Who can say? But there did appear to be some sabotage going on. On the first night, Jane joked about Peter's weight, making him self-conscious.
Because the only sports I know. Yeah, none.
Pie eating.
Oh! Thanks.
The battle lines were drawn here, with insults thrown back and forth. However, when it came to the marking, Peter was quite fair and even complimentary about Jane's food. But then came the final evening.
You like the finer things in life, don't you? You do, Peter, you do.
When discussing first impressions, Jane ripped into Peter with very little provocation, as if she was deliberately attempting to hurt his feelings. And she succeeded. Some of it may have been justified, but it wasn't very nice.
I don't know why you're shaking your head at me.
You won, Jane.
Number 3. Peter. So maybe Jane deserved to be on the end of that infamous rant, but honestly, there's no excuse for being such a sore loser.
In 4th place is me.
When you indirectly call one of your guests a fat troll and tell the other 2 that their opinion doesn't matter, the atmosphere created is not going to be conducive to a high score. It's not just about the food. They're also marking based on the overall experience.
Because you have all the grace of a reversing dump truck without any tyres on.
Which turned out to be very awkward all round. Topped off, of course, by the pièce de résistance, Peter's memorable loser's speech.
So Jane, take your money and get off my property.
Number 2. Catherine. It's hard to top that rant in the rudeness stakes, but Catherine definitely managed to. When you're dining with 3 people you met a matter of days ago, some jokes are surely out of bounds. And when Catherine labelled a fellow diner the most unattractive man she'd ever seen, was she even joking? To make matters worse, she then put a bag on his head. Defending herself, she blamed her northern brand of humour, but no one else was laughing. Over the course of her own night, she admitted that it had been too much effort to cook something nice for the others. She also thought up some horrible nicknames for her guests and wrote them out on a blackboard. What a charmer. Number 1. Marcelo. Sometimes dubbed Come Dine With Me's rudest contestant, hairdresser Marcelo served up some choice insults for his fellow diners. Crossing the line between brutal honesty and downright rudeness, he appeared to go out of his way to offend. Do people not understand that the other contestants are the ones dishing out the scores? According to Marcelo, Lydia looked a state, Chris had terrible hair, and Anthony had a dirty house. Poor Donna looked as if she'd never taken a bath. Marcelo made such an impression that he faces abuse every time the episode is shown on TV. But that's not fair. Come Dine With Me is at its best when the contestants are behaving badly, so cut Marcelo some slack.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.